entitled Forms of a Linear Function. Let's see who our reader is today. Is Jesse here?
No.
All right. Liam.
2.
Can you quit singing, please? Mason, can you take your hood off, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Liam.
There are 3 main forms of a linear function: slope-intercept form, standard form, and the point slope. Study these examples below.
Keep going.
Slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. The slope is m, y is 0. Standard form. Ax plus by equals c. Point slope. 1 minus k equals m. X minus h. The slope is m. Hk is a point on the line. For example, if the slope is -7 and the point is 20 -7 on the line, the equation of the line can be written y minus -10 equals -7x minus 10, or y plus 10
Can you not talk? Thank you. Next to slope-intercept form, and then you're going to turn back to page 1, and we're going to start with page 1. All right, at the top of page 1 is the title for chapter 6. So the title for chapter 6 is Systems of Equation. What letters of equations, what letter is at the end of that word? S. That S implies what? More than 1. Okay? So we're as the chapter goes along, we're going to be looking at more equations than 1. All right? So section 6.11 is today's lesson, which is titled Working with Multivariable Equations. And how can I change an equation into the form y equals mx plus b, which we just started on page 2, right? Why did we start that equation? What's so great about that one compared to the other ones? Mason. Two pieces of information. What 2 pieces of information does it give you? Gives you the slope and it gives you the intercept, just like the name says, slope-intercept form, okay? And so you can take those 2 pieces of information and you can easily graph a line, okay? All right, so question 6.1 says, Georgia joined the big race. Her race can be modeled with the equation y equals 3x plus 4, where x is the time in seconds and y is the distance in meters. So question A says, how much of a head start did Georgia get? Does anybody know by looking up at the equation? What do you think? 4, right? So you're going to write down 4 meters. Georgia got a 4-meter head start. And how can you tell? Why? Because it's the y-intercept. It's the number that's after the 3x, right? That's called the y-intercept. Can you step outside, please? Yeah. Part B says, what was Georgia's rate of speed? Anybody know what the rate is? 3. It's 3. The other number, right? So that's 3 meters per second. That's what we call the rate, and it gives you the slope. It's the coefficient of the x, okay? So those 2 numbers are important. The 4 is the head start for Georgia, and the 3 is the slope or the rate of what she's increasing on her big race, okay? Question 6.2 says, changing forms. So you could find the slope and the y-intercept of the line y equals 3x plus 4 quickly because the equation was in slope-intercept form. But what if the equation is in a different form? Okay, we're going to explore what happens when you have a different form. How many of you have heard of something called inverse operations? Inverse operations. So if 3 is being added to one side, what is the inverse operation of adding 3?
Subtracting.
Subtracting 3, right? And what if a side is being divided by 7? What is the inverse operation of dividing by 7?
Multiply.
Multiplying by 7. Good. Okay. So part A says the linear equation negative 6x plus 2y equals 10 is written in what we call standard form. We just saw that at the bottom of page 2, right? Can you easily tell what the slope of the line is? Can you easily tell what the y-intercept is? Can anyone easily tell what the slope is or what the y-intercept is? Okay? You are going to predict what you think they are. So on the line below, you're going to write, I think the slope is, and then write the number that you think it is. So write that right now. I think the slope is, fill in your number. That's called predicting. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, just guess. If you're not sure, just pick a random number. But you might want to use a number that's around, okay? And then your second sentence is you're going to make a prediction about the y-intercept. I think the y-intercept is, fill it in. I think the y-intercept is, and then write down your number. Okay? What I have on my paper is probably different than what you have on your paper or the person next to you, but maybe we all have the same thing. I don't know. It's just a prediction. All right. So here's what I wrote. I wrote that the slope might be negative 6. Why? Because I saw a negative 6. And the y-intercept might be 0, 10. Why? Because there was a 10. But am I right? No, that's not right. My prediction's not right. It says, make a table and graph the line. Using your graph, write an equivalent equation of the line. So we're going to take that equation, which I wrote down here, negative 6x plus 2y equals 10. And then I'm going to do inverse operations until I get the y by itself. So you since 6x is being subtracted, you want to add 6x to both sides. And then since the y is being multiplied by 2, you want to divide all the terms by 2. When you divide by 2, you get y equals 3x plus 5. Now it's in what we call slope-intercept form. Okay, the y is by itself. There's a coefficient in front of x, and there's a number being added or subtracted at the end. That's slope-intercept form. Okay, once you have it in slope-intercept form, you can also fill out a table. What's the easiest number to plug in anytime you have a table?
0.
0. Why? What is any number times 0? 0. Okay, so 3 times 0 is 0. And 0 plus 5 is 5. So your first point should be at 0, 5. That means if you start at the origin, you're going to go up 5, put a point. That's your y-intercept. Okay? The next easiest number to plug in is 1. So if you plug in a 1, you have 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 plus 5, which is 8. So you have a point at 1, 8. How many points do you need to make a line?
2.
2. You only need 2, but they gave us how many boxes?
5.
5. So they gave us more than we need. You only need 2. If you want to do all 5, go for it. But let's graph the point 1, 8. So from the origin, you're going to go 1 to the right. Then you're going to go up 8, put a point. And then you're going to take a ruler or the side of your student ID, and you're going to draw a line. What did I put at the ends of my lines?
Arrows.
What do the arrows mean?
It's infinite.
Right, it goes on forever in both directions. Means you have how many solutions?
Infinite.
Infinite solutions. Okay? The question down at the bottom says, now use algebraic steps to rewrite the equation. I already did it right here, so I just wrote that I did it above. And does your new equation match your graph for part B? I said, yes, it matches. Okay? Finish copying that down, and then we're going to turn over to page 2. Anybody still copying page 1? Okay. At the top of page 2. Says your teacher will assign you one of the linear equations listed below. Guess what? We're going to do all of them. Answer the questions below each equation. So part A says 2x plus y equals 3x minus 7. And we want to get the y by itself. What's happening to the y? What's near it or being added or subtracted from it? The 2x. So the inverse operation is to subtract 2x. So you're going to write minus 2x minus 2x. That leaves you with y equals x minus 7. Can I combine the x minus 7?
No.
No, they're not like terms. So the answer is y equals x minus 7. That's in slope-intercept form. The question below it asks you what is the slope. The slope is the coefficient of the x. What's in front of this x?
1.
There's a 1 there that you can't see, so you write down 1. Then it asks you what is the y-intercept.
-7.
It should be -7. If there's a 1 there, then the other number has to be the y-intercept. So it's your y-intercept is going to be at 0, -7. Then the last thing it asks you to do is to give one other point on your graph. You can pick any number you would like. You just can't pick 0 because we've already used 0, right? Let's say we pick 7. And then we plug in 7. What's 7 minus 7? 0. So I got the point 7, 0. So any point, any number you want, you can pick, plug it in, get an answer, that goes in for y. Okay? Now let's do part B. For part B, we have x plus 2y equals 3x plus 4. We're going to subtract x from both sides to get the 2y by itself. Then we're going to divide all of the terms by 2. And you get y equals x plus 2. That's in slope-intercept form. Then it asks you for the slope. The coefficient in front of the x is a 1. And then the y-intercept is at +2. Now you're going to pick any number you like except 0 and plug it in for x. So pick a number, write it down for x. Then add 2 to it, write that number down for y. That's a second point that's on your graph. Okay. Jump down to letter C. For letter C, we have 3y plus 2 equals 2y minus 5x. We need to get those y's on the same side. And we like them on the left for slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. So write minus 2y minus 2y. What is 3y minus 2y? 1y. So we have y plus 2 on the left. And then negative 5x. And we subtract 2 from both sides to move that 2 over. And so we get y equals negative 5x minus 2. That's our slope-intercept form. Once it's in slope-intercept form, you can get the slope, which is -5. And you can get the y-intercept, which is -2. Then for the last part, you're going to pick any number that you like except 0. Write it down for x. Then plug it in here. Multiply it by -5, subtract -2, and then write the answer here for y. Now let's do part D. For D, you have to distribute first. Why? Because there's parentheses, right? So 2 times y is 2y. 2 times -3 is -6. And then to get the y by itself, we're going to add 6 to both sides. So +6 + 6. Then to get the y by itself, the y is being multiplied by 2. So you divide by 2, which means you have to divide both sides by 2. And that leaves you with just y equals x. This one's so simple, it almost makes it a little bit tricky. Because it looks like you don't have a y-intercept, but you do. It's at 0, 0. And the slope, there's a 1 there that you can't see. Okay? And then when you go to put any other point on the line, you pick any random number except for 0. And because y and x are equal, whatever you picked for x, you're going to get the same number for y. So let's say you picked 3. You're going to get 3. Okay?